Dragon Ball and Seven Deadly Sins are two stories that have many similarities. The style of art is similar, it is a battle shonen, and both use power levels to determine how strong characters are. It makes sense because the mangaka of Seven Deadly Sins, Nakaba Suzuki, was heavily inspired by Dragon Ball Z when he was younger, taking many inspirations and influences from it and putting it in his own manga. Mainly characters with personalities like Goku, Bean, and Meliodas, and there's much more than that as well. Dragon Ball had gone on for a lot longer since Seven Deadly Sins, and thus has had actually way more feats. When it comes to power scaling Dragon Ball Z, it is by far a much stronger verse than Seven Deadly Sins, which is why I wanted to take one of the weaker villains, Raditz, and put him against the Seven Deadly Sins. Raditz arrives in Britannia and wants to conquer it. Can the Seven Deadly Sins stop Raditz? That's the question I want to seek to answer. For the Seven Deadly Sins, I'm going to include all of the mainline sins: Meliodas, Dian, Bon, King, Gowther, Merlin, and Escanor, alongside Elizabeth as well. And I'll be using all the characters at their current versions in the manga. Now, it's extremely important to note that Seven Deadly Sins power levels are not the same power levels of Dragon Ball. I see this so many times. People say that since Assault Mode Meliodas was a 142,000 power level in Seven Deadly Sins, then he would also have a 142,000 power level in Dragon Ball, thus making him be able to casually wipe out planets with the wave of his fist, while moving at speeds massively faster than light itself. This couldn't be further from the truth. Not only are these two completely different series, but Baylor's Magical Eye and the power level Scouters measure two completely different things. Scouters measure a person's ki and equates that to battle power. Meanwhile, Baylor's Magical Eye reads three different things of a person to determine their power level. 1. Physical strength, 2. Magic power, and 3. Spirit. Your power level is the sum of the number in each of these three categories. This proves that correlating power levels between the two series is irrelevant, so saying that since the beginning of Series Meliodas had a power level of over 3,000, and Raditz in Dragon Ball Z was a 1,600, it doesn't prove anything, and it's not an argument. So I'm going to first scale Raditz in a bit, because we should just get the easy one out of the way, as scaling Dragon Ball Z is generally easier than scaling Seven Deadly Sins. Now, Raditz with a power level of 1,600 would scale well above Piccolo, who had a power level of 322 when weighted. And despite with this power level, was able to use a ki blast that reached the moon in just seconds. This was 4 seconds of cinematic time, and which proves that Piccolo's attack moved at relative speeds, since it takes light 1.3 seconds to travel to the moon. This means the attack very likely traveled at least 32% of the speed of light, but we also have to remember that it would actually have needed to take 1.3 seconds for us to even see the light, meaning the feat was taking at actually 48% the speed of light. Now, Piccolo was weighted, but since it was a ki blast, I think it is safe to upscale the power level of the attack to a 400 power level, since he was at 408 against Raditz. This puts Raditz at roughly 4 times faster or stronger than that attack, putting him at nearly 2 times the speed of light. It would make him well over planetary as well. His durability would also scale to this, because this is generally how ki works. So Raditz is roughly 2 times faster than light. He can destroy planets with ease, and would survive planetary attacks as well with ease. Now, scaling the Sins is easy to see that in terms of attack potency and durability, there's really nothing showing they are planetary. I have seen one calculation for a planetary feat based on a feat done by one of the 4 Archangels, but it would be inconsistent and it isn't concrete enough in my eyes. Another thing, and this is a very, very common argument from Seven Deadly Sins, as I would know, since I've been debating many Seven Deadly Sins fans over the last few weeks to refine my argument of the Seven Deadly Sins versus the Black Bulls, which I've been working on that video a lot. And this same argument was brought up to be by every single person I debated, that Meliodas, by simply existing, was going to cause the planet to be destroyed. Now, maybe if this was actually true, then Meliodas could be scaled to planetary, but that isn't even what is happening. It is clear to state that Meliodas, now paired with the power of the Demon Lord, his power now was too much to exist, as it started to cause multiple storms across the entire land of Britannia. Britannia, a land that is basically Britain, a smaller sized country. So what is really happening here is the existence of Meliodas was threatening the entire island nation of Britannia, not the world, and thus it is an unquantifiable feat to calculate on top of this miasma. But Meliodas, with a power level of 30,000, was able to destroy Danafor casually. Now, Danafor is a country, but is more so a city-state, a city on top of a mountain. Still, this has been calculated to be a mountain to island level feat for Meliodas, and he was able to, he'd be well above that, with his assault mode being a power level of 142,000, and his current state of power being well beyond that. Country level is definitely the likelihood of Meliodas and the other Sins, as well as potentially even continental. I've seen the Demon Lord's power being scaled to well over 500,000, and Meliodas being scaled above that now, and most of the Sins have comparable feats and stats to Meliodas, so we can scale a lot of their speed, attack potency, and durability to at least relative terms of what Meliodas is. It doesn't mean they are equal though, but it does mean they could be comparable, and therefore the statement will just be given to them. So giving this similar level of attack potency and durability to the rest of the Sins is what I'm going to do. Now when it comes to speed, Meliodas with a power level of around 3,000 was dodging Gilthunder's lightning in the beginning of Season 1. With the common thought that the return stroke of lightning is 1/3 the speed of light, people have used this to argue that Meliodas is many times faster than the speed of light now, though using this really isn't that cogent or sound. The 1/3 light speed thing comes basically from a forum-esque website, and more authoritative and credible sources from actual physics departments of universities have the return stroke of lightning being only 1/7 the speed of light. And giving Meliodas these speeds would be a bit of a highball, since lightning has different speeds within a single strike. The much more logical assumption is to take the lowball, which puts Meliodas at massively hypersonic plus. Now, there's some arguments for light speed characters in Seven Deadly Sins, like with the angels using Arc, which is light-based magic attacks, but that would be assuming it moves at the speed of light, which I've not seen confirmation for, and the main argument I have seen for the confirmation is Zeldris versus Ludashel. Zeldris was going faster than Ludashel, and was stated to be faster than light, but this is a unofficial translation. The faster than light statement is an embellishment by fan translators, and it is not present in the official translation. But I think that FTL is a very high possibility, simply because of how much stronger and faster characters have gotten. Even then, the highest feat we have seen is a relativistic plus feat by Meliodas, when he was even faster than against lightning than he was against Gilthunder, and he'd be far faster in his full power state, since he was really only in his base form when he did this. And if the Demon Mark has made Meliodas over 3 times faster than before, and he was relativistic plus in this feat, then he would be FTL, and then you add an assault mode on top of that, he'd be several times faster. So I think Meliodas would be probably several times faster than Raditz, as same with the rest of the Sins. So that, even though they have an attack potency and durability weakness, they would have an advantage in speed, and it would be an 8 versus 1, so it's hard to fight somebody who's faster than you. It'd be even harder to fight 8 people who are all faster. And now when it comes to like magic and hacks, I do need to say that Merlin is one of the most wank characters in manga. Her magic is called Infinity, but is not infinite in terms of like attack potency and how much damage it can do. Sure, apparently she can make spells go on for infinity until they're disrupted, but they're not infinite. Absolute Cancel is not absolute, it is not infinite. Gauther was able to resist it partially. Perfect Cube is not infinite, and it should not be given a no limits fallacy if Meliodas' master was able to Absolute Cancel it with no difficulty. Also, Absolute Cancel is a magic attack against magic. Raditz uses Ki. So, yeah. And also one thing I'm going to talk about for this battle is we're lifting off the curse of Meliodas and Elizabeth so that Meliodas can, in fact, die, because that would be unfortunate and unfair outside help for him to have. I think that Meliodas' regeneration could play a big role, because Raditz would have to destroy all of his hearts, and Raditz would basically probably just shoot holes through the body of Meliodas, or just hit him in the head, or punch him in the gut, or just punch him and whatever. It might not just completely kill him, it might kill one of his hearts, but he can regenerate. Escanor might be a tank, as remember, he can regenerate way faster than even Bon, when he was immortal, could regenerate. I think that Bon's physical snatch would be a really big deal in this. If he stole half of Raditz's physical power, it would cut Raditz's speed, stamina, and abilities in half, thus making all the Sins even more faster and just completely draining Raditz of even more stamina. Gauther's mind hacks, I think, might work on Raditz here. We do know that Ki does have some sort of defense against magical hacks and stuff like that. Like Vegeta resisted Babidi's mind hacks, but was that Ki, or was that Vegeta's will, his pride? I don't think that King or Deanna are going to affect the battle that much, and when it comes to Elizabeth, she's constantly going to be healing the Sins over the course of the battle, regenerating their magic, and if they take damage from Raditz that doesn't kill them but completely fucks them up, she will heal them. And so I think that in this 8 versus 1 battle, the Sins will likely take this one with extremely high difficulty. Mainly because with Bond's physical snatch, Raditz could lose half of his stats and his stamina, and that's going to even further widen the speed gap. He's going to be going against 8 people who are far faster than him at that point, and I think that he's going to eventually run out of ki, which will weaken his durability, and therefore bringing his durability to potentially down to the level of the Sins, where they would then defeat him. I think that Meliodas might be able to outlast because of his regeneration, if he can at least, dodge attacks only being partially hit. And one thing I do need to bring up, if the Ozaru form does ever get introduced, it is a no difficulty win for Raditz. His attack potency, durability, and speed would all be multiplied by 10. The speed difference would therefore be null, as Raditz would now be likely faster than all of the Sins, and his attack potency and durability would then also be even higher, and he'd be a pure, personification of chaos. But anyways, that's what I think, is if you include Ozaru form, Raditz wins, mid to low difficulty. If you don't use that, I think the Sins would win high difficulty. But remember, that's just an 8 versus 1. Some of the strongest characters in all of the series versus Raditz, one of the weakest villains in Dragon Ball Z. But anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed, comment, and subscribe. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out.